morning and welcome to the King's Report. It's Thursday, January 4th, 2008, and it's cold in here. That's why I got this beanie under this bullet crown. Today is very cold in the studios. Today, as you know, we have a lot of windows here, so not a lot of insulation, but it is a camel beanie if you can see closely. Okay, so it does match. Okay. Good morning, folks. Let's go to Tim, the Agent Elder, for our accurate weather forecast. Tim.
It's 21 degrees and windy, and according to this, there's some snow falling. I don't know if it's actually falling. Sometimes, you know, the radar will say that there's snow falling, but if you actually go outside, you don't see it. And that's because as the snow is coming down, it evaporates before it hits the ground if the air is too dry. So I don't know if there's actually any snow, but we're expecting to get an inch, perhaps even 2 inches of accumulation today with the snow this morning. And 21 degrees now, and we're expecting a high of 22, so not much difference in the temperature. We have some warnings in effect. We have winter weather advisory remaining in effect, and also we have a wind chill effect that's going to be in effect from 10 p.m. today until all weekend until 7 a.m. Sunday. And the wind chill for the weather for the weekend is going to be much colder than it is today. Tomorrow, Friday, we're expecting a daytime high of 12 degrees with a nighttime low of 0. And then the wind chill then is going to be much lower than that. It's going to be about minus 15 to 20 because of the wind. And also Friday night going into Saturday, and on Saturday we have a daytime high of 9 degrees. Wow. And a nighttime low Sunday morning of 5 degrees below 0. But then also that will be the real feel will be 17 degrees below 0. Wow. But then on Sunday it's going to begin to warm up to 17 degrees. But then on Monday it'll warm up actually to 30 degrees.
Wow.
Whoa, break out crazy. The t-shirts.
That's crazy.
So next week it's going to be a more normal, because right at this time of year the historical average is a daytime high of 34. All right, that's the historical average. We've been below that average now for quite a while, maybe 10 days or almost 2 weeks, I think. But next week we're going to get back to that average. So that's the weather for now.
Well, like I said, it is very chilly in this room and in the studio. So, you got to bundle up even in here. I think that's how I got my cold on Monday. We're in the studio 3 hours. I'm bald, so your head capillaries do not constrict, and so you lose a lot of heat. And 3 hours was very cold in here. And then I was out all day. I was outside all day, again beat up by the freaking minus 20 degree winds. And I did not wear my beanie hat. I wore my regular hat, so it just must have cut through like crazy, and just killed my throat. And the fact that I have to speak so often too doesn't help as well. Yes. And shout and scream and shout, and especially in training, shouting and speaking, it just doesn't help this improve. So you have to forgive me today. It is my throat is still quite raw. But let's get down to it. Let's get to our headline news today. There is some very big news coming out of the White House with President Trump and Chief Strategist former Bannon. Maybe we'll go to Tim here as our computer is loading up on this side.
Okay.
To the Trump downloads on Bannon.
Okay. Yeah, there's a fight going on between President Trump and Steve Bannon. This has been brewing against since the Alabama election. Trump slams Bannon, says ex-aide has, quote, lost his mind, unquote. I think he said he lost his job and he lost his mind. This is an AFP article out of Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump unleashed a spectacular denunciation of one of his closest political allies Wednesday, describing former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon as insane and irrelevant. after the release of Explosive Experts from a new book in which Bannon reportedly describes Trump's eldest son's meeting with a Kremlin-connected lawyer as, quote, treasonous and unpatriotic, unquote. Trump wasted no time firing back. The embattled Republican president issued a response that was searing, even by his combative standards. Quote, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind, Trump said in a written statement. Trump said Bannon, who engineered the New York real estate moguls, a link to the nationalist far right, the sovereigntyist, all right, and helped to create a pro-Trump media ecosystem, was only in it for himself. Trump's fury appeared to have been provoked by the publication of startling extracts from Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House by author Michael Wolff. Passages published by The Guardian and New York Magazine quoted Bannon being highly critical of Trump's son Donald Jr. and daughter Ivanka. Bannon, who left the White House in August, is also quoted as saying that the investigation by Special Counsel Robert Mueller into Russian interference in the 2016 election will focus on money laundering. The investigation by Mueller, a former FBI director, is looking into whether Trump's campaign colluded with Russia to get him elected, the charge which the president has repeatedly and vehemently denied. Donald Jr. took a meeting with Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya in June 2016 after an intermediary promised material that would incriminate Trump's Democratic rival Hillary Clinton. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner and then campaign manager Paul Manafort also attended the meeting at Trump Tower in New York. The three senior guys in the campaign thought it was a good idea to meet with a foreign government inside Trump Tower in the conference room on the 25th floor with no lawyers, Bannon was quoted as saying in the book. They didn't have any lawyers. Even if you thought this was not treasonous or unpatriotic or bad shit, and I happen to think it's all of that, you should have called the FBI immediately, he said. Trump responded, just a minute. Trump responded quickly and cuttingly to the reported comments by Bannon, a former, now that he is on his own, Steve is learning that winning isn't as easy as I might make it look. Steve had very little to do with our historic victory, which was delivered by the forgotten men and women of this country, Trump said. Steve pretends to be at war with the media, which he calls the opposition party, yet he spent his time at the White House leaking false information to the media to make himself seem far more important than he was, he added. Steve was rarely in one-on-one meetings with me and only pretends to have had influence to fool a few people with no access and no clue, whom he helped write phony books. Wolff's book, which he says is based on interviews with Trump, his senior aides, and others, also mentions that Trump did not initially know who former House Speaker John Boehner was, that he eats food from McDonald's because he believes it to be safe from poison, and that his team did not believe he was capable of winning the election. Shortly after 8 p.m. on election night, when the unexpected trend Trump might actually win seemed confirmed, Don Jr. told a friend that his father, or DJT as he calls him, looked as if he had seen a ghost. Melania was in tears and not of joy, it said. The book even deals with the subject of Trump's infamous coif, citing Ivanka as telling his friends it was the result of a comb-over from the front and sides of his head stiffened by hairspray. The color, she would point out to comical effort, was from a product called Just for Men. The longer it was left on, the darker it got. Impatience resulted in Trump's orange-blonde hair color. Trump's press secretary Sarah Sanders hit back. The book is filled with false and misleading accounts from individuals who have no access or influence with the White House, she told a briefing. Stephanie Grisham, a spokesman for First Lady Melania Trump, denied allegations that she cried tears of sadness. The book is clearly going to be sold in the bargain fiction section. Mrs. Trump supported her husband's decision to run for president and, in fact, encouraged him to do so. She was confident he would win and was very happy when he did, Grisham said in a statement. Emphasis added.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is incredible.
Yes. So, Trump and Bannon are maybe no longer friends.
All right. Now, on Donald Trump Jr.'s Twitter, he says here, Steve had the honor of working in the White House and serving the country. Unfortunately, he squandered that privilege and turned that opportunity into a nightmare of backstabbing,
Yes.
harassing, leaking, lying, and undermining the president. Steve is not a strategist. He is an opportunist.
And Trump's attorney has now sent Bannon a cease and desist order. Not sure cease and desist what.
Incredible. That is unbelievable. That's incredible.
Demanding that he refrain from making disparaging comments against the president and his family. So Trump is taking legal action against Bannon in the form of this cease and desist letter.
In related news, The Guardian reports Trump Tower meeting with Russians treasonous, Bannon says, an explosive book. Hopefully it goes in a little more closely here. Excuse my very tore up voice. Donald Trump's former chief strategist Steve Bannon has described the Trump Tower meeting between the president's son and a group of Russians during the 2016 elections as treasonous and unpatriotic, according to a new explosive new book seen by The Guardian. Bannon, speaking to the author Michael Wolff, warned that the investigation into alleged collusion with the Kremlin will focus on money laundering and predicted they're going to crack Donald Jr. like an egg on national TV. Fire and fury inside the Trump White House, reportedly based on more than 200 interviews with the president, his inner circle, and players in and around the administration, is one of the most eagerly awaited political books of the year. In it, Wolff lists the lid on the White House lurching from crisis to crisis amid internecine warfare, and even some of Trump's closest allies expressing contempt for him. Bannon, who was chief executive of the Trump campaign in its final 3 months, then White House chief strategist for 7 months before returning to the right-wing Breitbart News, is a central figure in this nasty, cutthroat drama, quote, extensively, often in salty language.
Apparently part of the problem is that Bannon is telling some people that he might run for president himself.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
You know, we were saying, you know, we didn't know about Steve Bannon so much, but we were saying that, of course, in that same vein, he should have had Alex Jones in there. That would have been much better. Alex Jones in there, boy, that would have been tremendous. I mean, he appeared on Alex Jones' show and showed that he had connections to him. But Alex Jones or the InfoWars team there would have been a lot better because, you know, for example, now Roger Stone, one of the chief strategists, at some point for his for Trump's campaign, or chief advisor, I think, is on InfoWars. He's now an InfoWars reporter. So that would not, and frequently, apparently, Trump receives InfoWars videos and requests them every week. So he should have just done that from the beginning, especially if he saw Alex Jones as, in that manner. And of course, his top advisor is now an InfoWars reporter. He could have negotiated this a lot better without Bannon, if Bannon caused him so much grief, of course, with InfoWars, the InfoWars team. He is particularly scathing about a June 2016 meeting involving Trump's son, Donald Jr.'s son-in-law Jared Kushner, Donald Jr., son-in-law Jared Kushner, then common campaign chairman Paul Manafort, and Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. At Trump Tower in New York, a trusted intermediary has promised documents that would incriminate rival Hillary Clinton, but instead of alerting the FBI to a potential assault on American democracy by a foreign power, Trump Jr. replied in an email, "I love it." The meeting was revealed by the New York Times in July last year, prompting Trump Jr. to say no consequential material was produced. Soon after, Wolff writes, Bannon remarked mockingly, the three senior guys in the campaign thought it was a good idea to meet with a foreign government inside Trump Tower in the conference room on the 5th floor with no lawyers. They didn't have any lawyers. Even if you thought this was not treasonous or unpatriotic or bad, shish kebab, and I happen to think it's all of that, you should have called the FBI immediately. Bannon went on. Wolff writes to say that if any such meeting had taken place, it should have been set up in a Holiday Inn in Manchester, New Hampshire, with your lawyers who meet with these people. Any information he said could then be dumped down to Breitbart or something like that, or maybe some other more legitimate publication. Bannon added, "You'd never see it, you never know it, because you don't need to. But that's the brain trust they had." Bannon also speculated that Trump Jr. had involved his father in the meeting. The chance that Don Jr. did not walk those jumbos up to his father's office on the 26th floor is zero. Special Counsel Rob Mueller was appointed last May, following Trump's dismissal of FBI Director James Comey to investigate Russian meddling in 2016 election. This has led to the indictments of 4 members of Trump's inner circle, including Manafort and former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Manafort has pleaded not guilty to money laundering charges. Flynn has pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. In recent weeks, Bannon's Breitbart News and other conservative outlets have accused Mueller's team of bias against the president. Trump predicted in an interview with the New York Times last week that the special counsel was going to be fair, though he had also said the investigation makes the country look very bad. The president and his allies deny any collusion with Russia, and the Kremlin has denied interfering. Bannon has criticized Trump's decision to fire Comey. In Wolf's book, obtained by The Guardian ahead of publication from bookseller in New England, he suggests White House hopes for a quick end to the Mueller investigations are gravely misplaced. You realize where this is going. He's quoted saying, "This is all about money laundering. Mueller chose senior prosecutor Andrew Weissman first, and he's a money laundering guy. Their path to effing Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Donald Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as a hair on your face." Last month, it was reported that the federal prosecutors had subpoenaed records from Deutsche Bank, the German financial institution that had lent hundreds of millions of dollars to the Kushner property empire. Bannon convinced it goes through Deutsche Bank and all that Kushner shish. The Kushner is greasy. They're going to go right through that. They're going to roll those 2 guys up and say, "Play me or trade me." Scorning apparent White House insouciance, Bannon reaches for a hurricane metaphor. They're sitting on a beach trying to stop a Category 5. He insists that he knows no Russians, he will not be a witness, he will not hire a lawyer, and will not appear on national television answering questions. Fire and Fury will be published next week. Wolf is a prominent media critic and a columnist who has written for The Guardian and is a biographer of Rupert Murdoch. He previously conducted interviews for The Hollywood Reporter with Trump in June 2016 and Bannon a few months later. He told The Guardian in November that to research the book, he showed up at the White House with no agenda but wanting to find out what the insiders were really thinking and feeling. He enjoyed extraordinary access to Trump and senior official advisors, and said sometimes at critical moments of the fledgling presidency. The rancor between Bannon and Javanka, Kushner and his wife Ivanka Trump, is a recurring theme in the book. Kushner and Ivanka are Jewish. Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State, is quoted as saying, "It is a war between the Jews and the non-Jews. Trump is not spared." Wolf writes that Thomas Barrack Jr., a billionaire who is one of the president's oldest associates, allegedly told a friend, "He's not only crazy, he's stupid." Barack denied that to the New York Times. And there you go. So a big situation between Trump and Bannon is occurring. Also, another time news, Mount St. Helens, an active volcano, has 4 times as many earthquakes than usual last month. Something wacky seems to be happening underneath Mount St. Helens. It kind of seems like it's mirroring the macrocosmic Trump and Bannon escapade that's happening. There's volcanoes erupting everywhere.
You know, I think Mueller is feeling very good this morning. This is exactly what he needs.
Exactly what he wants. Exactly what he wants. And who knows? Is Trump playing a game of 9th level chess, where he's doing this, picking a fight with Bannon publicly, but they're doing it to embolden the Democrats and the leftist lunatics to attack him even harder and to try to go for the next move that they're trying to do, of course, which is trying to say that he's unfit to be the president and evoke the 25th Amendment? Or is Trump seriously in trouble, in bitter strokes, different strokes with Bannon? It seems to be the latter, but you never know. Politics is very deceiving, and these people at the highest level, their game is deception. It's interesting. I just saw a video report by InfoWars the other day talking about, actually, by Jerome Corsi, one of the InfoWars reporters, top Washington insider for 30, 40 years, But Jerome Corsi was saying that we are now under martial law. We're actually under martial law. According to the executive order that was just signed last week, regarding human traffickers, anybody who's being investigated for human trafficking, etc., is essentially under financial martial law. All their assets will be frozen, etc. And Jerome Corsi was saying that he expects to see CEOs retire, resign, high-level political elites resign, and major elitists running out of the country, because Trump is now starting to make the move on this pedophile cult, which holds all political Satanism together, and the Bilderberg group, Davos group, you name it, super elites together. There's devil worshippers, Satan worshippers, baby killers, cannibalists, engaging in ancient satanic ritualistic practice, and that's of course all out exposed by the individuals who are in those circles. The point is that they were making, and maybe we'll look at it after the break, because we need to take a little more frequent breaks today because of this cold. But being under the martial law, this was connected to QAnon, who is a insider with definite inside information in the intelligence agencies. He's the guy that's been predicting, for example, even the Pope changing the Lord's Prayer a day before it's happening. He's the guy predicting just a slew of things right before they happen. He's this internet blogger, basically, that's posting on 4chan, and he's this anonymous figure. But obviously this man has intelligence on the inside in the White House. Around the world, he's probably very high up in the intelligence agencies, known just by his screen name QAnon. And Jerome Corsi has been following him very closely. And it was directly linked to him announcing basically that Trump will commit martial law, and then the very next day Eric Schmidt would retire, and the Google executives, etc., would start retiring. And right there on the same day as Trump declares martial law, boom, on those assets of people in pedophilia, boom, Eric Schmidt of Google resigns, okay? And a whole slew of other top executives start resigning. And of course, Trump is now unleashing his power upon Bezos and Amazon.com. He's starting to go after them. Who knows what he has on Bezos? We know Bezos is definitely in cahoots with the super elite of the world. Bilderberg member, you name it. What do we have on Bannon? Bezos, will there be some more fire and fury with not only Bannon, but Bezos? We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us.
You're just willing to give it a try, and just let the universe and let God guide you from there on. And then it was not after 2 or a couple more trips with each other that we decided that, you know, this could work out, actually.
There was this really clear voice that came to me, like, in that moment, where it was just saying, like, well, Marshall hasn't rejected you, or Marshall sees you for who you are. And I kind of just, like, I kind of had me dumbfounded for a moment. I kind of just sat there, and I'm like, I started getting really choked up, actually, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, and it was like that, in that moment, I, like, realized that everything that I've been praying for in terms of, like, having a man in my life, or like everything that I've been praying for God to have in a spouse, like I realized that all those qualities were in Marshall, and it was a really, really deep realization. And then I'm like, oh my God, everything I was getting frustrated about earlier and all that short temper means nothing anymore, because I realize now, like, it took some sifting through, but I mean, like, I see now that this is really the man that God wants me, and the man that God sent to answer all my prayers. And from there on, I'm like, okay, that's it. Nothing else really matters. I don't care what he does. This I know is from God, and this I know is for real. So I can't turn my back on this now. And that was, for me, the moment that really sealed the deal in my heart. And then shortly after was when Marshall got the phone call.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
Hi, I'm Joby Gorgas with Magnum Research. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new L5 and 44 mag. This is our 5-inch model, lightweight model. It's got an aluminum grip frame, shaving down the weight so that we can get it under 50 ounces so that it's New York legal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to properly hold the L5 for function. When shooting a Desert Eagle, you want to make sure that your dominant arm is locked out, pushing back into the back of the grip. Your secondary hand is holding around the front of the grip to keep the muzzle flip down. This gives you a good firm hold for proper cycling. We got to remember that the Desert Eagle is a gas-operated rotating bolt semi-automatic pistol, not unlike an AR system. I also want to talk to you about the stance for shooting the Desert Eagle. When shooting the Desert Eagle, you need a good firm base, so you want to step into your direction, get that arm locked, that support hand on, and lean forward into it so that you can handle that recoil.
We are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Thursday, January 4th, 2018. Second King reporting live from the Chenigung Palace Studios. To all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God, good morning. It is 5:35 a.m. Let's go now to this breakdown of a national state of emergency declared by President Trump. That is specific boundaries, let's say, and let's go to this discussion with Alex Jones and Jerome Corsi.
Top expert on banking, former State Department advisor. He's joining us. We're going to break here in a few minutes, but Doc, we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Do you concur, or what do you add to suddenly have establishment media saying, okay, Russiagate's a fraud, the FBI has been discredited, we've got to stop? This signals what we already know has gone on behind the scenes. They've run up the white flag to the president, at least for now, at least certain elements of it. I think this is a deception. What do you think, Dr. Corsi?
Well, I think it's largely that the whole Russiagate narrative has failed, and that it's clear it's failed. I mean, even the New York Times is trying to substitute a narrative with one of the lower down figures in the campaign talking trash, having drinks. I mean, the whole thing is clear that the Russiagate is a no evidence and has been no evidence from the beginning. And what you've had is it's turned on the Democrats in that now we know this Fusion GPS document was used to get the FISA wiretapping, the electronic surveillance. Donald Trump was right. He was under electronic surveillance. So was his campaign. And I think that basis of that wiretap, the Fusion GPS, is fraudulent.
Well, of course it was. How could they be so arrogant to commit all these crimes, criminal leaks, make stuff up, and now be caught? A Clinton coterie, a cabal in there trying to frame the president, thus the voters of America.
I think they got used to, under the Clinton years, of having this compliant mainstream media, lapdog media, that repeated everything that Obama and Clinton wanted said, everything the deep state wanted parroted and broadcast. And what you find out is now you've got a situation where the public is listening to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a whole different force to be reckoned with. And, you know, the mainstream media, the deep state have never dealt with someone like Donald Trump.
This is important. It's very important. It's as important as World War II, quite frankly. Globalism, as you know, and we're a best-selling author working with Lou Dobbs, with the #1 show on TV at the time, exposing that. And now here we are, from being voices in the wilderness, myself, Ron Paul, Matt Drudge, so many others, President Trump 30 years ago, 29 years ago, whatever, writing op-eds against NAFTA and GATT. I mean, here we all are, and now we're moving into the position of not being in control, but getting some of the tentacles off the throat of America. And we see life coming back in, and we see the globalists panicking, and we see now the emails of Abedin coming out, confirming that she had classified info and that Hillary lied. I mean, you can see that Trump has taken the gloves off. He's known for that. I think he gave Hillary and the globalists their chance to kind of, like Napoleon, go to the island of Alba. But I think, like Napoleon, they came back. And so this time, they're going to get locked up for real. Give us your analysis and where this is going. Trump is at war with the swamp. He's hired some swamp creatures to be his guides, but all I care about is results. We're getting unprecedented results. And quite frankly, I'm surprised how much results Trump's gotten. This is quite a turnabout here.
Well, and we've been following, I've been very closely following this QAnon, and I started it when the executive order came out on the 21st, which was really, just a few days ago. This executive order suddenly appears, President Trump signs it, and he says that this is against international trafficking, human rights violations, and the executive order declares that a national emergency exists, that a state of national emergency exists. It's not only that we have the Treasury Department has the right to confiscate the assets of those involved in human rights trafficking, but also that the state of emergency is in place, which means we're under martial law for this category of offenses. And then QAnon links it to Eric Schmidt, and Eric Schmidt resigns the same day that from Alphabet, as head of Alphabet, the same day that this executive order is coming out, and they're linked, because you see the extensive funding and involvement. QAnon did this long narrative, which we decoded, and it was clear that part of that narrative, central to it, was the fact that Eric Schmidt had funded Hillary, run her IT department, was involved very deeply in this crowd. And
that ties into Pakistan.
Right, ties into Pakistan. All this ties into the entire development of the Russian collusion narrative. Now, what it looks like, and we've been able to confirm a variety of things from the QAnon. I mean, this national.
Well, let me just say this to stop you, and I'm going to hold you in the next segment. Let me just say this to stop you.
Right.
I mean, you've been at the highest levels of banking, friends with Donald Trump. You've got all your own CIA connections. So do I. The reason QAnon's so important is much of what he's saying is the same intel we're getting. Precisely. And then it's gotten attention, so it's a way to focus people. And we're not lessening QAnon or 8chan or the rest of it, but this is a real executive order. And as you said, a lot of my listeners went, Alex, this is martial law, this executive order. Well, we're under globalist attack. They've seized the country. He's cutting your taxes. He's securing the borders. He's taking care of the veterans. He's trying to take care of old people. He's getting rid of Obamacare, meant to screw you over. When you're in a war, it's martial law against the globalists. If they start using it against the people, I'll go ape. That's not what's happening. We're under globalist foundation control. And if Trump's going to take the gloves off when deep state's openly saying kill him, and he's got to get geared up to do this, cutting off Saudi Arabia, going and making them make a deal, cutting off the Clintons and globalist money, that's where it was coming from. That's what Vegas was about. I have my own military intelligence and CIA sources that are saying on air, like Zach, and I'm not going to say his real name, obviously, Zach's his first name, who are giving us the exact same intel before QAnon. So all I'm saying is we're confirming what QAnon's saying from our own sources, and it's incredibly bold.
Well, and also I think, QAnon is clearly an intelligence source of one kind or another, as inside information. I mean, I'm able to decode it from the background I've got in intelligence. But QAnon is validating, Alex, the things that you've been saying for years. And, that's where the affinity comes. There's background here that validates all the points that you've been making about the globalists. The martial law is here. That martial law was declared in that executive order. And Trump is going after the money of human rights violators. I mean,
which again, explain, that's the main funding of the globalist system. Explain that.
Yeah, well, that's the key. I mean, the whole funding, this whole pedophilia, and I mean, you were pounded months ago for going after this, but I think now it's going to be validated. You're going to be vindicated in 2018, because this whole pedophilia network, which is billions and billions of dollars, has been intertwined in Wall Street. It's intertwined in the news media, in Hollywood. You see it in the political circles. And I think Donald Trump's going after it. I mean, and it is validation. I wanted to point out, I was able to validate that this Arizona National Guard unit has just been moved from Phoenix. They moved about 4 dozen soldiers, part of the 850 unit National Guard, which are military police battalion, have just been moved to Gitmo. And that's after you had Secretary of Defense Mattis visit Gitmo. You've had Attorney General Sessions visit Gitmo. I mean, clearly something is going on. And this executive order is a clear declaration that we are in a state of emergency, which gives the powers of the presidency really exceptional characteristics and abilities.
And let's be clear, the Democrats, people say, Alex, you're the one that always warned of this. Now you're for it. The Democrats have announced we want a state of emergency. We want civil unrest. We want Trump arrested or killed. We want to kill all the Republicans. Hashtag kill Republicans. They're building towards this emergency, as they said, in December. So Trump put this in with the intel to basically block their funding. He already cut off Saudi Arabia. So again, folks, he's blocking them with the executive power. They're wrongly trying to launch this without executive power as a rogue group. Clearly, this is what's happening. And the word is that what we're seeing with QAnon and my other sources that are confirmed, high-level Army Special Operations Command, you name it, is that what we're seeing from QAnon is warnings to Hillary and warnings to Soros that you're going to be in Gitmo if you keep pushing it. Not that they're actually going to be going there. Go ahead.
Well, and also, Alex, I want to point out that the two gentlemen who run the QAnon in 8chan,
we've had them on.
Also on the Reddit, the subreddit, which is, you know, the calm before the storm, CBTS_stream, came on the show, came on your show last week and spent a good deal of time and it was all over the subreddit. You just calm before the storm /stream and with hundreds of responses to it, a couple hundred that I read. So you see that QAnon is acknowledging that, in fact, you, Alex, have been ahead of the curve and that your audience is ahead of the curve.
Well, exactly. It's not about you. And I know you're just pointing out we've been right. But again, it's not about us. I'm just pointing out this is real. We've had Phil Mudd, the former head of counterterrorism, saying we're going to kill the president on CNN. I mean, they did that to rally their troops to say, I mean, what's the word, though? Because the last 5 days, they have been signaling that they're backing off. They crapped their pants after this executive order. McCabe announced he's resigning, leaving. Schmidt, I mean, they're really signaling that they're scared.
Well, I think what we're seeing is this is the beginning of the Trump counterattack. And it has, I think, two elements to it. One is you see Trump very effectively working now with Congress. Nunes in the Senate, you're going to see Gowdy and Jim Jordan in the House, who are going to press these issues of McCabe and Strzok and all the holdovers from Obama that were really determined to run a very biased FBI and Department of Justice that was going to excuse Hillary of everything and go after Trump on fake charges of this whole Russian collusion issue. Now, what you've got in this, what you've got going on, I think extremely here, is that Trump is saying, I've had enough of it. And what he's going to do is he's going to counterattack. He's going to say, I'm coming after you, and we're going to get the money. The money is going to be the #1 target, and the money is, I think, cut off is going to severely limit the ability of the deep state to operate.
And there
I'll
you
be
go.
honest with you, I'm not mad at myself, but when I read the executive order last week, I said,
There you go from Jerome Corsi, right there, breaking down the president's executive order. We are now officially, for that category of offenses, under martial law, folks. The U.S. is in a national state of emergency, according to that executive order. Maybe we can pull that up on the whitehouse.gov executive order list. We should look at it closely. But it is declaring a national state of emergency, freezing the assets and investigating those involved in child trafficking and human rights violation. Essentially, Trump is saying, I will go after the pedophile network that rules this country, that rules the deep state, that rules the super international bankers and the banker elite class, Bilderberg Group, you name it. They're held together by devil worship. And this is, of course, look at Chelsea Clinton sending a Happy New Year tweet to the Church of Satan. Look at this. Former First Daughter joyous over discussion with satanic organization because her mom is a witch, literally. Look at this. Incredible. I'm in a Twitter conversation with American model Chrissy Teigen. Former First Daughter discussed how she found herself in numerous threads with the Satanic Church the previous year. Church saying and I were put on a few threads together. What a time to be alive. Chrissy, in 2018's Hooters, the official Church of Satan Twitter account responded to Clinton moments after. The never excitement here is never ending, the church tweeted. Clinton tweeted back, It's been so long. Happy New Year. Satanic organization responded, same to you. Here's to a great 2018. It was established in San Francisco, California in 1966 by Anton LaVey, who was also known as a Black Pope. LaVey reportedly engaged in cannibalism, according to his authorized biography, but of course in many sexual rituals. Again, linking the friendly nature between the Clintons and actual Satanism, okay? This is not just me saying this. This is, again, by your own admission, linking themselves to the Church of Satan. These people are total witches. And, of course, the WikiLeaks coming out last year during the campaign trail, exposing the podestas and the coterie of individuals around Hillary Rotten Clinton, as being involved in satanic ritual, spirit cooking with Marina Abramovich, etc. There's a woman that cuts human bodies up like cakes and eats them for fun at parties. You know that's only what she's doing publicly. But what she's doing privately, of course, all these internal Satanists, in their little private parties and in their little super elite mansion parties, engage in actual satanic worship, killing of babies, human sacrifice, and of course at the highest levels, literal cannibalism. We see this, hints of this, of course, with Planned Parenthood organizations funded by the left, dividing up body parts and selling them. There's an excellent banner that was made where a baby fetus is divided up in different parts and different monies signs are put on them for different prices. And that's exactly what Planned Parenthood is doing. They're selling body parts to different organizations for profit. At the same time, the super elite are engaged in historical cannibalism, which is it's not a new thing. These satanic rituals are talked about in the Bible. These Baal worship and murdering of children, the killing of children, human sacrifice, the cannibalization or the eating of human baby parts because they believe some kind of life force is there. Mel Gibson in the green room now talking about the fact that Hollywood is led or run by basically cannibalist pedophiles that are engaged in satanic rituals because Satanism actually justifies and allows for them to do this type of psychotic behavior and this type of demonic behavior. It gives them a sort of religious theological framework by which they operate. Some of them are atheistic Satanists, some of them are theistic Satanists. But nonetheless, they're engaged in the what they believe is the drinking of life force or absorbing of life force, the highest of which is a human being. And they know that, and that's why they target children, because they know children can't do crap about it, especially if they're fetuses and or just born. So again, you see, the Clintons linked. See, they look like blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, but they are deeply involved within the Satanist circles. And of course, Hillary Rodham Clinton as well. Spirit cooking. Let's get some pictures of spirit cooking and Marina Abramovich. Again, these are the people that were going to rule over you. These are the people that wanted to complete control of the world, and erect a world government. Okay, where in which they can regulate and command and tax you from the U.S., from their different stations around the world, and basically human tax from the entire world population. That was their stated goal. You're talking about Council on Foreign Relations. You're talking about trilateral commissions. You're talking about Dave Rockefeller and all those different groups. You're talking about Hillary Clinton linked up with Abramovich. Look at some of those pictures that she does. I mean, these people are completely insane, and they think it's literally a joke. They think it's some kind of fun little artistic thing. Here, zoom in on some of those pictures here. There's an idiot, Gwen Stefani, in front of the cake of cannibalized, public cake, human eating. The cake is made in the shape of a naked woman, and then it's cut to pieces, and it's bloody inside, and then they eat it. And they just think it's funny. They think it's artistic and avant-garde. This is the problem with art. It just gets pushed towards Satanism. The more avant-garde they try to be, there's no new ideas under the sun. So the more avant-garde they try to be, the more Satanistic they become. And there you can see Gwen Stefani shooting a selfie with her, with a Marina Abramovich style cake of a woman that's been cut up by knives and been eaten. This is what they do at their public parties. Imagine what they do at their super selective private parties with the royals of the Europe and the vestiges of satanic kingdoms. Such a wicked, wicked, wicked group of people. Go back to the Marina Abramovich pictures and her spewing the blood and semen over a little child effigies. There she is with the picture of that bath. See the bath of blood? Up there at the top. There it is right there. There's Marina Abramovich and Lady Gaga drinking from a bloody bath of, they're drinking from, look at that. It's supposed to be some syrup or something. They've got some naked models laying down in there and she's so creative. Wow, she's so creative. She has a guy sitting in a vat of blood, and they take black spoons and rub it on his body and his sexual organs, and then they eat it in some kind of... I mean, these people are crazy. They're freaking crazy. Anton LaVey was famous for making his concoctions of cookies, which he would use as fake Eucharist in his black mass, using different ingredients into his cookies or biscuits that he was used as the fake Eucharist. And he would put literally a women's bloody PMS blood, menstrual blood inside it. He would also put in men's semen inside it, so that you would literally be eating. I mean, it's like everything nasty and defiling. You know, he's putting this in. And then you have the whole feminist movement trying to celebrate bloody, you know, menstrual blood as some kind of holy artifact. That's straight out of Satanism, you know. And Anton LaVey, and then you have Marina Abramovich drinking blood with black spoons off of naked models. I mean, what the hell is wrong with these? You see how crazy these people are? They're just freaking insane. And these are the kind of people that they wanted to rule over you and I. These are the kind of people that they wanted to rule over us. They wanted to make the rules. They wanted to make a society where in which this kind of behavior is normalized, and that they can eat children and rape them and kill them with impunity or with freedom from punishment. I mean, these are the type of witches and evil demons. And this is why, for example, in Salem witch trials, the liberals never want to talk about it, but a lot of the witch trials, and they say that Christians were pressing, the Christians were catching these fools, and they were putting them on trial. And the Salem witches were killing babies. They were involved in child sacrifices. So in terms of jurisprudence, yeah, does people require, they absolutely deserve the, you know, capital punishment. So the left never wants to tell you about that point, right? That point. It's always, oh, the intolerant Christians come after the witches, which always do nothing. Except for kill children, rape them, have necrophilia, and then eat them. Okay, if you count that as nothing, then I guess the Christians don't do nothing about witches. But if you actually go to the actual pagan witches brews, all that pagan legend comes from actual witches who did that. Because when you leave the moral standard of God and the moral law-giving nature of God, then you open yourself to all manner of deceitful, wicked, iniquitous, demonic behavior. And when you have psychopaths that get in control of that, they literally pose as doing these sacrifices as art or culinary style. I mean, it's just crazy. These people are absolutely psychotic. They're insane. And they wanted to make all the laws that would govern your life. I mean, they would literally affect your life. They wanted to raise your taxes, tax farm you, steal your money, use it for themselves and their art exhibitions. And then they wanted to take control with their pedophile network of all the politicians having these sexcapade parties where they traffic young children in to be destroyed at their little private mansions in private LA, Hollywood areas. And then they want to regulate what you do and lecture about how guns are bad and how people shouldn't be able to defend themselves and how you should bow down to them and how you should worship them because they're celebrities walking on red carpets. These are the people that are being destroyed by the internet because the internet allows a democratization of information. And so people don't have to go to these elitists anymore for their information, for their knowledge, and they can learn elsewhere from actual experts in different fields who are not engaged in this type of wicked, demonic, licentious behavior. I mean, these people are just pitifully sick, okay? If you're asking why I'm wearing gloves, it's cold in here. It's very cold in the studio, okay? So I'm trying to stay warm. I've got a cold. I've got a throat cold. My throat is raw, so I'm trying not to scream and rant today. But you're dealing with actual Satanists who walk the earth, the actual progeny of Satan. They worship him. They worship at least forms of him, whether it's theistic or atheistic. But they are worshiping Satan. They are devil worshippers at the very top. The Pope's involved in it. He is also a devil worshipper. Is his second in command, Cardinal Pell, is now on trial for trafficking over 100 little boys. This organization, these world-level elitist organizations, are coming under fire. Trump is closing the door on them. He's now starting to go after the money, declaring a national state of emergency on these networks. And of course, in the end, he's going after Soros. And he's, of course, that will link to the Rothschild group, the European monarchy. All hell is breaking loose. The Vatican, you name it. Literally, it's the end of satanic monarchies and kingdoms. We are in the last days, folks. This is crazy to see all this unravel. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us on the King's Report.
Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead. not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar
And we are back. Excuse me as I adjust this beanie, which I have to keep on because it is cold in the studio, folks. It's the camo crown, the bullet crown, 223 crown with the camo insert, but it's really just a beanie. Okay, it is cold in here, folks. But it is Thursday, January 4th, 2017. Second King reporting live. Let's go to Tim Elder for the executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Let's go through this executive order given by President Trump, December 21st, 2017.
If the tech team can bring up this order, we're looking at it on the whitehouse.gov official White House website. So this is the original material. The title is Executive Order Blocking the Property of Persons Involved in Serious Human Rights Abuse or Corruption. And we see in the first paragraph that we see a list of laws that the President is citing as his authority for issuing this order. The first law mentioned is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The second is the National Emergencies Act.
Look at that.
The third one is the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. And then the fourth one is the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. And so then it says that I, Donald J. Trump, find that the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption that have their source outside the United States, I'm skipping over some of the language here, outside the United States, such as those committed or directed by persons listed in the annex to this order. And the annex is, if you go to the very bottom, there's a list of 13 people. None of them are U.S. citizens, and I looked at that annex and I don't recognize any of those directly. But anyway, so committed or directed by persons listed in the annex have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. So how is it that people we've never heard of are actually able to threaten the stability of economic systems internationally?
I mean, you're talking about, you're saying it's threatening global
Right.
politics, global economies
Right. So
by these 13 people.
right.
Come on, this is unbelievable. These are networks, these are massive rings.
And so, skipping to the last sentence in this paragraph, the United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuses or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by these same persons. So apparently these 13 people are somehow threatening the U.S. economic system.
You see that? That's incredible.
So
these are probably some of the main traffickers from different countries. We know that, for example, Russian girls are trafficked into Asia. Right? I mean, they're high-priced, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls, prostitutes. Even in Korea, highly prized.
Absolutely, yes.
You know what I'm saying? In the Middle East, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls were the highest sold on the slave trade.
And Korean women are trafficked to the United States.
Korean, Asian women trafficked to the white people. Sick of the blonde hair, blue eye, they want the Asian girls or the boys. You know, it's so crazy. But how is it these 13 people, disturb international order?
Right. So they're connected to some people who are connected to other people, and so there's a lot here that the president is aware of that he's not revealing.
Yes.
So anyway, let's look at let's go to the place where it says, "I hereby determine an order," because this is the actual meat. Until now, we've been looking at the introduction. Now let's look at the meat of it. So in Section 1, it says, Section 1, parentheses A, all property and interest in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States. Or
okay, 1 second. Let me back you up just 1 second.
Okay.
One sentence before that. Look at this. I therefore determine the serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. Look at this. And I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat, folks.
Right,
that's it. The President of the United States and the world has declared a state of national emergency to deal with the threat of what he calls human rights abuse, but really what he's talking about, and the insiders are all talking about it, is the pedophile networks. It is sex trafficking and the selling of children, which of course the Vatican, the super elites are involved in. China as well, Xi Jinping, all those fools, at least those super elites, they are involved in it. And look at this, unbelievable. He declares a national state of emergency. Go ahead.
Yes, and this executive order was signed on the December 20th and issued on December 21st. You'll see at the bottom.
Right.
So it's 2 weeks ago, and
Right
somehow
before
it missed the attention of.
Oh man, the media, it was a blackout. Media didn't touch this thing. The media didn't touch it because they're complicit.
Yes.
All those top, they're getting slammed for sexual harassment, all that. Boy, they've been doing more than sexual harassment at those super elite parties that those media Matt Lauers and all these bozos are going to with Hollywood stars. This is ridiculous. But this was a Christmas gift to the world coming after these people. But for the evil and iniquitous, boy, they see it as hell coming towards them.
Okay.
Incredible. Let's go over it.
So in section 1, parentheses A basically says, okay, we're going to freeze the property, and then it's whose property. So then Roman numeral small case I, the person's listed in the annex, all right, so those 13 people, all right, so that's 1. And 2 is any foreign person. So we're still talking about foreigners, all right, because all the people in the annex are foreigners, and 2 is also foreigners determined to be da-da-da-da-da. But then if you go down to 3, go down a few paragraphs, a little bit ways down to 3, any person. So we're no longer, in 3, we're no longer talking about foreigners. We're talking about any person determined by the Secretary of Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and Attorney General to have capital A, to have materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial, material, or technological support for, in other words, technological support for.
Schmidt. And of course, financial Soros.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy.
Or goods and services in support of any activity described in, so any activity, the human rights abuses that is conducted by a foreign person, and or supporting any person whose property or interest in property are blocked pursuant to this order. So if you provided support to anybody on that list or anybody who's connected to anybody on that list, then your property is also going to get frozen.
Well, he should start confiscating the Catholic churches right now.
Right.
I mean, this is incredible. Mm-hmm. This is amazing. And Trump is doing it. He is actually beginning the hunt of the pedophile networks. He's starting to go after them. All this stuff is pointing straight at George Soros. That's why they want to kill President Trump, or at least eliminate him with the 25th Amendment, saying he's unfit to be president, saying he's psychologically damaged, whatever, he's sick, etc. But this is unbelievable. And think about it. This was almost published 10 plus days ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks, yeah.
Almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's a blackout. It's a total blackout. Even alternative news, you can barely hear about it. I just heard about it a couple of days ago. Alex Jones himself admitted that he didn't report on it for a week. Mm-hmm. Until Jerome Corsi wrote an article about it. And because he was just trying to deal with this and trying to understand exactly what was going on. But think about it, folks. I mean, wow, there is a complete blackout about this. And this was 2 weeks ago. How come we didn't hear about this every freaking day? We should hear full-time documentary reports on who these people are and who they're connected to.
Yes.
Each one of them should have a documentary made about them, outlining who these people are, what they're connected to, what their role is in undermining the national security of the United States, what their role is undermining global economies and polities. I mean, this is unbelievable. And the fact that it's not even reported on is emblematic, exactly revealing, exposing of the fact that mainstream media does not want this to come out. They do not want this data, this information to come out. CNN should be doing documentaries on each one of these people on this annex. This is, first of all, there's a national state of emergency, which is declared, which means martial law for this state of offenses has been declared in the United States. The U.S. is now under martial law. Do you understand that? I mean, how can that not be on CNN? Okay.
Let's go to Section 8.
Incredible. Go ahead.
Let's go to Section 8. The Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Secretary of State, is hereby authorized to take such actions, including adopting rules and regulations, and to employ all powers granted to me by IEEPA. I think that's the International Economic Emergencies Act, to be necessary to implement this order. And also in Section 9, the Secretary of State is also authorized to employ all powers and granted to me by the IAEPA. And then...
Oh man, you will see CEOs and elitists trying to flee this country like it's the Black Plague. Boy.
And this order
Trump
is
is
effective
doing
at
it. He's
12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, December 21, 2017. Then Donald J. Trump, the White House, December 20, 2017. And then you see the annex. Mukhtar Hamid Shah, date of birth, August 11, 1939. Alternate date of birth, I guess he was born twice, November 8, 1939. Nationality, Pakistan. Angel...
Go ahead, Wikipedia these people, guys.
Rodon Rijo, 1950, Dominican Republic. Dan Gartler, Democratic Republic of Congo. Dan Gertler. Maung Maung So of Burma, born 1964. Yeha Jame, the Gambia. Sergei Kuziuk, Ukraine.
Anyways, I think he has ties to George Soros.
Benjamin Bol Mel, South Sudan or Sudan. Julio Antonio Juarez Ramirez, 1980. Guatemala, he's pretty young. He's 37 years old. Golnora Islamovna Karimova of Uzbekistan.
Islamova.
Yes.
Islamovna.
Islamovna. Sounds like a...
What's that?
Well, Uzbekistan is a Islamic
nation, yeah.
Islamic country, yes.
Right, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Then Slobodan Tesic of Serbia, and Artem Yurovich Cheka of Russia, and Gao Yan of China, and Roberto Jose Rivas Reyes of Nicaragua.
So people we've never heard about, but what the heck? Trump is saying this executive order, these people are destabilizing the entire world.
Entire world.
He's saying the entire world.
Yes.
These 13 people, according to this executive order, are destabilizing the entire world, and it calls for a declared state of national emergency in the United States of America. And you have CNN, NBC, not one of those fools are covering this at all. Who are these people? We're going to try to look into it, but who are these people? Apparently. What are the inside intel on these people? Yeah. What are these people? How are these 13 people destabilizing the entire world, democracies, economies, polities, you name it? How is that possible? What is the evil that they're doing that destabilizes the entire world? Wow, unbelievable. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us on the King's Report. Incredible.
When you get to first realize that a stage of your life is ending and this is your role now, and that's when your mind really starts to say to yourself that you have to either act or think differently than you did when you were even younger, because you're going to be the new husband, you're going to be a new wife, you're going to be like a legal guardian or a person that people will look up to. And for me, when I was going through the process of even walking up on the stage, I was going like, I had never imagined that it will be like this in a million years. And I'm serious when I say that.
And yeah, I think I was really in the moment on that day, just just so much gratitude that now it's like, now we're making the covenant before God, and now this is real, and now God literally is giving us his blessing. And it was all the stuff that happened before that what made it really difficult, was just completely, it all like melted away, and it just, being there and receiving the blessing just made all the hard work and all the good, just made everything worth it. I just felt so lucky that I was able to finally receive this immense grace from God, like, and to be able to stand with the best person in the world and get that.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Boy, wasn't that fun shooting this Tommy gun today?
It's always fun shooting Tommy guns. This one especially, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
All polished and chromed up. It really looks like $1,000,000.
Yeah, Elliot Ness would have loved one of those.
Yeah, and it's available right now in your favorite dealer, and you go pick one up.
Yeah, just have him call your distributor.
I mean, the gun, was initially made way back when, back in the 27 is this one.
Yeah. Model 27.
I was surprised by how quick it knocked down those plates.
Oh, 3.5 second run, under 3.5 second run, knocking down a plate right. 341.
I mean, the gun is heavy. It's about what, 12, 14 pounds, especially with this drum. But it's surprising how quick you can go with it. It would actually make quite a good self-defense rifle at home.
If I climbed in somebody's window and they were aiming that at me, I think I'd get out of there real quick. So.
That sounds about right to me.
Just the intimidation factor alone.
Fire!
And we are back. Second King reporting live from the Chanigong Palace Studios. And the iron sights are going up, folks. You know what time of day that means? It is. It means it is aim point on. Let's now go to the U.S. Department of Treasury. Its press release article on the United States sanctions human rights abusers and corrupt actors across the globe. Notice again that it's barely covered. Financial Times did one, Fox did one, but you're talking about some little minor blurb. This should be ongoing 24/7 investigations by actual journalists, trying to find out what these people are, who they're connected to, who they're, what their nonprofit organizations in the United States are, because we know they will have tons of nonprofit organizations that probably ally with Open Society and George Soros, and radical Islamic leaders like Linda Sarsour, etc. You name it, you Obama, Clinton Foundation, all those things. I would not be surprised if all these organizations are linked to those criminal mafia enterprise organizations. But how is it that you have this list of 13 people that supposedly is destabilizing the world, according to this executive order by President Donald J. Trump? They're destabilizing economic order of the world, the economic or political order of the world. They are destabilizing the entire world, and it's so severe that it's enough to declare martial law and a state of national emergency, affording the president extraordinary powers in this time, since December 21st. Think about how incredible that is. And then you got the Democrats retreating, they're quaking their boots because they're all involved in this. You have them literally now worshiping the president, not worshiping, but they're completely changing their tune. They're admitting that the Russia collusion narrative is bunk. They are panic mode, panicking. The president now has invested in himself the extraordinary powers of the executive office, which of course is not, constitutionally shouldn't be this big, but that's how the globalists made it so that they could take over America, disarm the people, and mount our heads on the wall. President is changing it around, so now he's going after their wicked, iniquitous networks, their criminal enterprises, sex trafficking, child trafficking, human organ trafficking, and of course, cannibalistic, pedophile, elitist, special secret organizations, secret groups, what do they call secret societies. What are these people? Who are they associated with? What organizations do they operate in the United States and foreign and abroad? How are they connected to some of the biggest criminals like George Soros? All of the above. These things should be covered on every news agency because we are in a state of national emergency. I mean, how can this not be reported on by CNN? How can there be a blackout? ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, you name it. Where are all these so-called, quote, journalists writing about the fact that the U.S. is under martial law now? Tim, isn't this unbelievable? Let's go over this article and cover some of the Department of the Treasury's explanations about why these 13 people are on this list. Tim Elder.
Okay, a press release. This is on the treasury.gov, so the official United States Treasury website. Press release issued December 21. United States sanctions human rights abusers and corrupt actors across the globe. And it says that this press release reads as follows. Today, the Trump administration launched a new sanctions regime targeting human rights abusers and corrupt actors around the world, building on the global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act passed by Congress last year, in other words, in 2016, under the Obama administration. President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order today declaring a national emergency with respect to serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world and providing for the imposition of sanctions on actors engaged in these activities. In an annex to the order, the president imposed sanctions on 13 serious human rights abusers and corrupt actors. In addition, the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, acting on behalf of the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, imposed sanctions on an additional 39 affiliated individuals and entities under the newly issued order. As a result of today's actions, all of the assets within the U.S. jurisdiction of the individuals and entities included in the annex to the order are blocked, and U.S. persons are generally prohibited from engaging in transactions with them. Further details on these designations are included below. So the Yahya, I guess you pronounce it, Jammeh, a former president of Gambia, who came to power in 94, stepped down in 17, so he was there for 23 years. Long history of engaging in serious human rights abuses and corruption. Created a terror and assassination squad called the Junglers that answered directly to him. Used these junglers to threaten, terrorize, interrogate, and kill individuals whom Jammeh assessed to be threats. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the Mafia Godfather does pretty much the same thing. Jammeh used the Gambia's National Intelligence Agency as a repressive tool of the regime, torturing political opponents and journalists. Routinely ordered the abuse and murder of those he suspected of undermining his authority. During his tenure, Jammeh used a number of corrupt schemes to plunder the Gambia state coffers. Ongoing investigations continue to reveal his large-scale theft, $50 million of state funds. $50 million, I mean, that's potatoes, come on.
That's peanuts.
Yeah, small potatoes.
There's something that these guys are not talking about. They're just scratching the surface. Scratching the surface. Look at that guy first on the list of the annex, President Trump's executive order, the Mutaya guy, and he is involved in organ trafficking. So that's a little closer now to what we're talking about. We go down here.
Oh yeah, okay. Shah is a
Mukhtar Hamid Shah,
Pakistani surgeon specializing in kidney transplants, who Pakistani police believe to be involved in kidnapping, wrongful confinement, and the removal of and trafficking in human organs.
There you go. So he's selling, kidnapping children or people, laborers, and organ harvesting for profit.
Pakistani laborers, yeah. He has a kidney center in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, where he harvests these, kidnaps laborers and detains them and takes their kidneys and other organs, I guess.
I mean, why isn't Xi Jinping on this damn list?
24 individuals were to be held against their will. Impoverished and illiterate Pakistanis from the countryside were reportedly lured to Rawalpindi with the promise of a job and imprisoned for weeks. State that the accused arrested in connection with the events estimated that more than 400 people were imprisoned in the apartment at various times.
Well, this is interesting because President Trump, what he's doing, he's showing his morals. He's sending to the world and all those pedophile networks and all these human trafficking networks, this is what I believe as a president. These are my morals, okay? If you are associated with these individuals, etc., we're going to come after you. But I'm generally, he's saying, speaking also generally saying, generally, I hate this kind of behavior. I think this is vile and evil behavior, and I think it should be prosecuted. Specifically, these people, who are they connected to? That's what the news and investigative journalists should be covering every single day, 24/7, trying to associate these people with what organizations in the U.S. Are any of them open society donors? Who are the politicians that receive funding from these individuals? Who are the politicians that receive funding from the organizations tied to these individuals? These are critical questions. Who are the politicians who have been seen with these people? Is there a Paul Ryan? Are there neocons? Also on this list, we know probably the left is all associated with these people. But who on the right is associated with these people? Which CEOs of major monopolies like Amazon or Schmidt of Google, who just retired, or eBay or whatever they are, whatever organization is, who is connected to these people? Who is in collusion and complicit with these people? These people, according to this executive order, are destabilizing the world. Okay, they have that much power according to this letter. Are any of them associated and connected to the Vatican Church? Are any of them associated or connected to Cardinal Pell? Are any of them associated to the Chinese human trafficking organ harvesting network? What is the connection? Trump is sending out a vibration, identifying these 13 people, which may be, of course, camouflage, political camouflage, to then send out a vibration to say, I'm coming after all of you fools, ringing the bell, the red alert to attack all these mafia mob bosses. And you can see now the forces of evil. You can feel it in the cosmos. The force of evil seeing this and railing and saying, Trump is going to die. We want to kill him, is what they're saying, spiritually. And of course, that's why President Trump taking these bold and, very, very bold and very powerful stances against things that were totally taboo, which Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bush, etc. would cover up, never mention. This is the first time now in modern times that we've been under national emergency, folks, and the president is evoking a national state of emergency centered on these 13 people that destabilized the whole world, apparently. So what is the nature of this? What are the details behind this? There's no elaboration on this in the mainstream media, which is, of course, we know is complicit with the leftist lunatics and George Soros, funded by the super elites like Time Warner and Ted Turner, etc., Viacom and organizations as such, Disney, etc. What is the president revealing in this document, which he's not saying explicitly, but implicitly implying through these people and their connections? Who are the people that are connected to them? What are the organizations? What are the nonprofits that are connected? How are they connected to the political super elite? How are they connected to Hollywood? Are there any Hollywood stars that are connected to them? And then who are those Hollywood stars connected to? These are the investigations that have to begin on these 13 people that are purportedly destabilizing the entire world. I mean, this is how crazy it is. Tim, go ahead. You want to cover some more of these? Destabilizers of the world, apparently.
Well,
Let's cover some more of them.
Yeah, I wanted to look at this one guy who is interesting to me. He's let me just go back to him. Let's see. I was looking at this guy, Angel Rondon Rijo. Is a politically connected businessman and lobbyist in the Dominican Republic who funneled money from Odebrecht, a Brazilian construction company, to Dominican officials who in turn awarded Odebrecht projects to build highways, dams, and other projects. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Odebrecht is a Brazil-based global construction conglomerate that has pled guilty to charges of conspiracy to violate the anti-bribery provisions of this act and agreed to a criminal fine of $4.5 billion. And Rondon was arrested by Dominican authorities and charged with the corruption for the bribes paid by Odebrecht. So this is he's connected to a global construction company. That of course, a lot of people get connected to construction companies.
How is that then affecting a national state of emergency in the United States?
Yeah. There's one woman on the list, Gulnara Karimova, is the daughter of former Uzbekistan leader Islam Karimova, headed a powerful organized crime syndicate that leveraged state actors to expropriate businesses, monopolize markets, solicit bribes, and administer extortion rackets. In July 2017, the Uzbek Prosecutor General's office charged Karimova with direct abetting in the criminal activities of an organized crime group whose assets were worth over $1.3 billion. Karimova was also charged with hiding foreign currency through various means, including the receipt of payoffs in the accounts of offshore companies controlled by an organized criminal group, the illegal sale of radio frequencies and land parcels, siphoning off state funds through stock sales, the illegal removal of cash, the non-collection of currency earnings, and the import of goods at inflated prices. Karimova was also found guilty of embezzlement of state funds, theft, tax evasion, and concealment of documents. Karimova laundered the proceeds of corruption back to her own accounts through a complex network of subsidiary companies and segregated portfolio funds. Karimova's targeting of successful businesses to maximize her gains and enrich herself, in some cases destroyed Uzbek competitors, due in part to Karimova's corrupt activities. In the telecom sector alone, Uzbeks paid some of the highest rates in the world for cellular service.
And then how is that connected to America being in a national state of emergency? Unbelievable, because these just sound like just corrupt politicians, corrupt leaders. But again, how are they connected to the U.S., which affords which forces the president to declare a state of emergency. Look at this interesting figure here, Gao Yan.
Yes.
Beijing Public Security Bureau Chaoyang Branch Director. Look at the charges that are being said here. It just says during Gao's tenure, human rights activist Chao Shunli was detained at Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau Chaoyang Branch. 2014, Chao fell into a coma and died from organ failure, her body showing signs of emaciation and neglect. Chao had been arrested after attempting to board a flight to attend human rights training in Geneva, Switzerland. She was refused visitation by her lawyer and was refused medical treatment while she suffered from tuberculosis. That seems a very innocuous type of crime given the context of the criminal human rights abusing nature of the Chinese political elite. I mean, that seems so incredible. What is the veiled threat there of Gao Yan? How is he connected to Xi Jinping and the network of the political elite in China? That seems like a very small crime that China does every freaking day, imprisoning human rights activists. Give me a break. That's the reason why Gao Yan is destabilizing the entire world? Give me a break. You know these are veiled threats. These are clearly veiled threats towards the power blocks and power elites of the world. Saying, you know these people may work for you, and we're coming after these people, which means we're coming after you because we know who are running. We're not letting it out publicly yet because we don't want World War III, but we are coming after you. President Trump is moving on something, folks. We are in a national state of emergency with regards to these human rights abuses. And who are these people? What are their crimes? What is the nature of their crimes? It just comes out very, very opaque, very blasé, very unclear, very nebulous. What are these people involved in? Who are they connected to? Are they connected to some of the world's biggest child trafficking organizations, human rape organizations in Hollywood, in the Vatican, in the super elites with the Davos groups and funding by George Soros? All these things connected with radical Islam, Saudi Arabia kings, and the trafficking of blonde-haired, blue-eyed women in the Middle East, in the sex trafficking trade there. What are these people? Which direction is the president pointing to in this very encoded executive order where he annexes these 13 people as being the destabilizers of the entire world? The media should be covering each one of these people extensively with all their networks. Project Veritas has been doing a great job outlining the networks of different criminal organizations. Project Veritas should do a piece on each one of these people because they're the only ones that are actually doing investigative reporting. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us.
There was a lot of things I really liked about Diella from the very beginning. You know, I loved her passion, the way she sang with the church, the loyalty she had to her parents, and you know, I really wanted somebody who's loyal to True Father, and I knew if she's loyal to her parents, that's a good sign. And the one memory I really have, it really helped me really decide I really want to get blessed to her, was she said that I'd always be second. And she'd always put God before me, and I knew if she was willing to put God before me, I could like fully trust her, and that was something that really moved me to I knew at that point I wanted to get blessed to her.
Okay, so at first when we met, we completely put each other in boxes, the famous box, and I don't know, I was praying and praying and praying, and I was just not sure in the beginning. We both weren't, and but we just continued talking, and but for some reason it just didn't seem to work because we were just too focused on ourselves, I think. So, but I kept praying and praying, and then one day I was very frustrated, and I even talked with my mom, and she told me, you know what, Diella, I can see he really loves God. And if he loves God, he can fully love you. And I think that's what I needed to hear, and from that moment on, everything changed.
And we are back. Welcome back. Thursday, January 4th, 2018, St. King Born Live from the Chanigung Palace Studios. Again, getting back to this incredible executive order. If you look at this, what's so confusing is some of these people just seem to be like these state, run-of-the-mill politicians, political elite engaged in corruption. There's no extraordinary crimes that are listed here, other than that person with the Matali guy, the organ harvester, Mukhtar Hamid Shah from Pakistan, who is organ harvesting and kidnapping children or people.
Laborers, yes.
Laborers.
Apparently he kidnapped people, about 400 people over a course of some period, and then took their kidneys.
So it's interesting. Trump is really sending quite a large net out. He has here people who are engaged in different companies, different monopolies, businessmen, billionaires, former president of Nicaragua Supreme Electoral Council, dealer of arms and munitions in the Balkans, Tesik. He spent nearly a decade on the UN travel ban list for violating UN sanctions against arms exports to Liberia. Okay. So he has some weapons manufacturers there. Mang Mang So, Burmese Army's Western Command. Examine credible evidence of Mang Mang So's activities, including allegations against Burmese security forces of extrajudicial killings, sexual violence. Here's a hint at it: sexual violence and arbitrary arrests, as well as widespread burning of villages. According to witnesses, soldiers opened fire on men and older boys and committed multiple acts of rape. Many of the women and young children were repeatedly also shot, etc. So he is putting out a big net saying these array of crimes is what we will be coming after. And of course, it seems that Trump is putting out intimations or hinting to the fact that we know the actors who are behind these people and or who collude with these people. Excuse me. And we know the organizations like the CFR, like the Triangle Commission, like the Bilderberg and Davos Group, like the organizations that are internationally funded by George Soros, like the organization that helped destabilize nations and take them down. Only to bring communism, only to bring centralized power, only to bring in George Soros funding to then have them tax farm the human population for the profit of the bankers until they implode it. Then they balkanize it. Then they divide and conquer it, implode it, start civil war and civil unrest with other countries or in and of itself, and then use that civil unrest again to rape it even further with the borrowing of money, lending to it again, posing as its saviors. So really a nasty thing. But again, on its face value, when you look at this executive order, it's very hard to see what kind of extrajudicial, extraordinary crimes these people are involved in that destabilizes the entire world politics and geopolitics and world's economies. I mean, and of course, this seems to be more of a veiled threat by Trump to say that, look, we are taking this seriously. We are declaring a national state of emergency to afford now the president with extraordinary executive powers. Extraordinary executive powers. And in 2018, it's open to be seen how the president will act on those extraordinary powers now afforded to him by the various national security acts that he enacted and or mentioned in the executive order. What will he do? If these people are such a big threat, what are their ties to George Soros, Open Society, to Black Lives Matter, Antifa? What are their ties to Linda Sarsour? What are their ties to Paul Ryan and the neocon Republicans? What are their ties to the Bush pedophile rings that were running in Washington, D.C., a story that Washington Times broke in the 1980s? What are they tied to in the Hollywoods and the child pedophile rings and the Weinsteins and the child trafficking of the super elite class? What are they connected to? How will President Trump go down this rabbit hole? What links will he link together to go after these mafia mob bosses? We know he's already going after all the pedophile networks in America. Over 10,000 pedophiles and sex traffickers already been arrested. The president giving the green light and okay to go after these people and these mafia networks. The currency of Hollywood, as Mel Gibson said, is children. The currency of Hollywood and the super elites around the world are the trafficking of children. And the deviant, satanic, not only archangelic, satanic, devil-worshipping practices of child necrophilia, child pedophilia, and child cannibalism. These are what the super elites are into. This is what they're engaged in, and this is what President Trump is against. He's not part of this. He's a blue-collar billionaire. He wants no man to succeed. He doesn't want to divorce your family. It makes your family divorce, incentivize divorce. He wants you to have a strong knit family. He wants you to make money. He wants you to be prosperous. He wants to cut your taxes. He wants to close down the border, which will then actually increase employment wages in the U.S. He wants you to save more money so you can give more to your employees because he knows the engine of any economy is this entrepreneurial class and the people who go and take the risk to be entrepreneurs. President Trump wants to pull us out of unfair trade deals like NAFTA and GATT and TPP, which basically implode U.S. Trade sovereignty and ability of ourselves to govern our own waters and our own laws regarding trade, and not be imposed upon by international orders from the UN and these globalist conglomerate mafia cartels and the Catholic Church. Who is he going after? He seems to be throwing quite a big net in terms of corruption with the companies and the monopolies. He's also pointing to Amazon, which he's now investigating and going after as well, as Amazon literally gets paid to ship packages. How incredible cheating, incredible cheating. Bezos is the owner of Washington Post, who also received $600 million of a deal with the CIA and the deep state. I mean, talk about total collusion. And then he's also getting paid by the federal government with tax dollars that they steal from you. $1.46 per package, which amounts to billions and billions of dollars per year. I mean, they are getting totally subsidized by the government, and they're pretending as if they're a free market organization, Amazon, while they kill off their competition, while they kill off any other small or medium-sized businesses, putting even Walmart, even these larger businesses out of business, in the local areas because Amazon is now trying to direct sale to everybody. Again, it's not anything wrong with the ideas of direct selling to people. It's the problem is, or internet shopping, the problem is when they're allowed to collude with government, pretending they're a monopoly, pretending they're free market, when they're receiving subsidies and monies directly from the taxpayers without the taxpayers wanting to give them billions of dollars per year, free shipping. The reason why they're able to do free shipping is because they get paid for it by the government. How ridiculous is that? And Trump just last week tweeting about Amazon, saying that it's unfair and that Amazon, by being subsidized by the federal government, is destroying the postal service of the United States of America. So he is pointing his fingers at them. He is pointing his sights on them. And so what will Trump do in these upcoming days? He's also pointing his sights towards Hillary Clinton. Another article here. About Clinton and Gitmo that we just had. That was up. But here in another article, a case for Trump to pardon Assange is gaining momentum. Assange being really the hero. So Trump is a mastermind of chess, political chess. Is this charade with Steve Bannon? Is he picking a fight with Steve Bannon, suing him to distract his opponents, to make his opponents believe that he's actually busy infighting when he's actually developing a strategy to take them all down, you see? But he's making a little charade with Bannon because he knows Bannon is not against him and that he can use that opportunity to then create some cover, create some political cover for him to then go after these other criminals in the deep state, outlined in the executive order, connected to probably organizations funded by George Soros, etc., and bringing those links together, afford his operations and his investigative bodies time, give them time as he goes after them, distracting the public, distracting them with Drudge, distracting them with all these news media publications saying that Bannon and him are at a war and they hate each other and all this kind of thing. Is this just a political distraction so that Trump can do the harder work, the more important work in 2018 of destroying this wicked, satanic, devil-worshipping cabal? Case for Trump to pardon Assange gaining momentum. Trump lawyers argue for Assange's right to publish in Roger Stone's case by Jerome Corsi. Again, the case that President Trump should pardon Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, is building, bolstered both by WikiLeaks' continued insistence that the Russian collusion argument is a hoax and by arguments made at the end of December by Donald Trump lawyers in 2017 involving Inforce.com Roger Stone. The WikiLeaks task force was responding to attendance argument that Donald Trump, it was DNC and MSM who promoted Trump as Pied Piper, GOP candidate. The WikiLeaks task force responded, own it. The WikiLeaks task force ended with a strong rebuke to Tandon. You're a giant, nothing burger, still a non-logical argument, etc. In a motion filed with U.S. District Court of Columbia, December 29, 2017, in the case Roy Cochran versus Donald J. Trump for president, attorneys for President Trump argued that Julian Assange has a right under the First Amendment to publish the DNC and John Podesta emails, even if the emails were stolen. The case was orchestrated by Project Democracy, a group run by former attorneys from the Obama administration, arguing that then former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone had conspired with the Russians to publish DNC and Podesta emails. In a 32-page motion defending the Trump campaign, Michael A. Carveen of the Jones Day law firm, attorney of record representing President Trump, argued that the Trump campaign and by inference, Julian Assange of WikiLeaks could not be held liable under the First Amendment for disclosure of stolen information if the information published deals with a matter of public interest and the speaker was not involved in the theft. In making the argument, Trump's attorneys relied upon Barnicki versus Vopper, 2001, a labor union case in which the Supreme Court ruled a radio station that had the right to broadcast a stolen tape of a phone call between the chief union negotiator of a Pennsylvania high school and a chief union negotiator, together with the union president. Technically, Assange has not been yet indicted of any criminal offense in the U.S., nor is it clear he has committed any crime under the Supreme Court decision New York Times versus Sullivan, and in Pentagon Papers, New York Times versus U.S. 403. A journalist allowed to accept and publish classified documents provided by other sources. On December 29th, 2017, Assange posted a tweet that referenced an article published by The Guardian on December 14th, citing a UK tribunal that declared WikiLeaks to be a media organization and a free speech advocate. While Roger Stone's case is still pending in the District of Columbia District Court, the opinion submitted by President Trump's attorneys can be seen to have established the basis for pardoning Assange as a precondition of allowing Assange to leave the Ecuadorian embassy in London without U.S. federal authorities seeking to arrest him. Both CIA Director Mike Pompeo and Attorney General Sessions have argued that arresting Julian Assange is a priority. They're ridiculous. He was critical in the election of Trump. He was absolutely critical in bringing down Hillary Clinton, even though it is not clear that Assange has violated national security laws, etc. So there you go, folks. Rand Paul, Pakistan burns our flag and imprisons Christians. Senator repeats Trump's call to end the aid. Appearing on the Fox News Channel, Rand Paul siding with the president. I think most Americans would support the president on this. Why don't we like to see our money going to countries that burn our flags? In Pakistan, they incarcerate Christians. There's a Christian, Asia Bibi, that's been on death row for 5 years. They put Dr. Shakil Afridi in for 33 years. He's the guy that helps us get Bin Laden. Paul noted that they looked the other way, that Bin Laden was there over a decade. So yes, there should be conditions to it. We shouldn't give money to countries that have mass protests burning our flags and put Christians in jail for gossip. There's no reason in the world we should give them 1 penny when they put Christians in jails or put people in jail that helped us to get Bin Laden. That shows to me to make me think that they don't care about being our ally. At the very least, if you give people money, they ought to be your friend and they ought to be your ally. There's some question about whether Pakistani intelligence cooperates with the network that kills our soldiers across the border in Afghanistan. Yes, Americans agree with the president. We ought to quit sending good money after bad.
And then China immediately came to the defense of Pakistan. No.
Oh my gosh. Look at that. So incredible. Trump is strengthening Jerusalem's position and the Israeli position as he goes after Pakistan and the different Middle Eastern countries. Incredible. Trump is really changing the world. The world is being changed, folks. This is incredible, unprecedented. We haven't seen this in literally 100 years. He is changing the entire world political structure. Also, before we go to break, Pope Francis' opponents of mass migration show violence, racial discrimination, and xenophobia. The Pope again exposing himself as a complete globalist, a complete center CFR individual, a complete Bilderberger, a complete Davos group in bed with the elitists and protecting a pedophile network, which is completely Satanist and demonic. We'll be right back after a short break with more on the King's Report. Stay with us. And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report this morning, Thursday, January 4th, 2018, as we're being blessed with snow right now. And the palace up here on the hill. Second King reporting live to all the kings and queens of the kingdom of God. Good morning, 721. Take care of yourself, folks. It is cold out there. Don't walk around without a beanie like me and get a cold. But a very important article here, right before we go to Tim and his breakdown of a couple important articles. In his new message for the World Day of Peace, the false Pope Francis has denounced those who question the wisdom of mass migration, accusing them of demagoguery and promoting xenophobia. On his World Day of Peace, those who decry the risks opposed to national security or the high cost of welcoming new arrivals are guilty of, quote, demeaning the human dignity due to all as sons and daughters of God, Francis said in the New Year's message. Of course, he doesn't mention the radical ideologies that these people are bringing in, which are an existential threat to European civilization, Western civilization, etc. But of course, the Pope is in on the game. He's in there to destroy the West, to act as a false Pope. This is the last Pope, as the Catholics were even prophetizing and talking about. It's like, it's not even a Pope. It's not even a real Pope. It's a totally globus operative, a Goldman Sachs banker, literally, a George Soros, mirror image, but just in white clothing, a complete false prophet, protecting the biggest pedophile network, one of the biggest pedophile networks in the world, human trafficking networks in the world, rape networks in the world, that is the Vatican Church. Cardinal Pell being the prime example of the high-level pedophilia that exists in that organization, and they're totally covering up for it. Or the endless slew of cases of Catholic priests and nuns sexually abusing people, more priests than nuns, sexually abusing children, and then just getting sent to a different location, not being punished, not being disrobed, totally protective of pedophilia and the predation on children. And this is not a new thing of the Catholic Church. This is an old thing. They've been doing this for centuries. Now, he is saying that that mass migration should be allowed to Europe, into the West, into America. He's trying to guilt shame the Catholics who are living here, trying to say to even Latin Americans, whoever are Catholics, that they should be for mass migration. And it's not a matter of whether or not we're against people or not. It's a matter of these dangerous ideologies which can infect people and make them become children of Satan. Children of God don't stay always children of God. They can also sell themselves to Satan. And he can, just as Jesus says, you have your father, the devil. You can become a child of Satan. You can leave being a child of God and become a child of Satan. Even that's basic Christian theology 101. Now, it doesn't mean you're not a human being. It doesn't mean you're not made in the image of God. It doesn't mean you can't repent and change your ways and be transformed by the Holy Spirit and through Christ. But it doesn't mean that you're allowed to pour in and implode civilizations and or millions from untold medieval, misogynistic, pedophile running, slave trade running nations which are allowed to just pour in. And the idea that's saying that's dangerous to a nation and its cohesiveness and its history and its future. To say that is, what did he say? What was he saying? Xenophobic and racist. Basically, he's saying it's racist to say that. It's racist to say that dangerous ideologies pouring into your country are a problem if they become the majority. That's just a statistical fact. Has nothing to do with race. The fact of Islam, that it conquered all of Arabia, all of the Arab world, all of the Middle East. It conquered parts of North Africa and all the way up into Europe within the first 150 years. This is a conquest-based ideology. It is not a religion. It is a political system. All governing, ubiquitous when it takes hold, and it destroys anything else. It is a total cancer to the world. That is Orthodox radical Islam, which imprisons women, allows for rape culture, allows for women beating women, allows for trafficking children, and selling them in child marriage at 5 years old to grandpas. Do you understand? Allows for the genital mutilation of young girls so they can never experience sexual pleasure and be completely traumatized for the rest of their lives. You are talking about a total misogynistic system, total racist system, talking about Arab supremacy, talking about actual running the trans-Saharan slave trade for the last 1,100 years, the longest lived slave trade in the world, which the left never covers and, of course, allies with. The fake Pope is saying people are sowing violence, racial discrimination, and xenophobia, which are matters of great concern for all those concerned with the safety of every human being. The Catholic Church celebrates the World Day of Peace each year on New Year's Day when it commemorates the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. Again, there you go. There you go. In his annual message for the Day of Peace, the Pope opted once again to underscore the plight of migrants and refugees, as he has on several occasions recently. He's basically saying, he said that the European continent and Europe is not the product of Christianity. Christianity is not its root. Vladimir Putin has met with the Pope before, and Vladimir Putin himself said, is this guy really Christian? I question if this guy is even Christian. He's so hateful of Christian history. He's so hateful of Christian flourishing. He's so silent when Christians are being slaughtered in Syria under the UN protection of radical Islam. He's so silent when he's talking about mass migrants coming in and raping Belgian women and European women and bringing the rape culture, sexual molesting hundreds on New Year's Eve. He's silent. He's silent to the plight of radical, misogynistic, devilish, oppressive, slave and sex trafficking radical Islam pouring in. Nobody has a problem with people of every race, creed, and color. We are beyond that in the modern day. Nobody has a problem with that. We have a problem with the ideologies that those people import. Because it's not the people that are a problem. It is the ideologies which they've been indoctrinated with and brainwashed with. You don't just import 25 million North Koreans into the United States and think that it's not going to have an impact. Of course, the U.S. is probably kind of big, so it would have lesser impact. But you don't import 25 million North Koreans into South Korea and have it literally become the dominant force in South Korea and not expect that polity to change to the leftist lunatics and or be bullied to become completely red. This is what the Pope is aiding and abetting. He's aiding and abetting the process of the deconstruction of Western civilization and Christian civilization. And even though the monarchs of the past were evil in the Christian world, at least they were not for what radical Islam is about. The monarchs are wicked and evil, but at least they were representing a Christian civilization, which at least normal people could engage in, even though the monarchs were wicked and corrupt and evil. But that's better than the radical Islam caliphates that literally have harems, literally have sex trafficking on slave blocks in open society, in open places, okay? That openly call for the murder and killing of not only homosexuals, not only a transgender. I'm talking about people who are not Muslim. Okay? I mean, complete, the most backward ideology in the world, and it's overtaking Europe, and Europe can't do anything about it. And if you criticize it as a Catholic, now you're a freaking fake leader, tells you that you're racist. Migrants are men and women, children of elderly people. And elderly people who are searching for somewhere to live in peace, Francis said. In order to find that peace, they are willing to risk their lives on a journey that is so often long and perilous, to endure hardships and suffering, and to encounter fences and walls built to keep them far from their goal. See how he's trying to humanize illegally breaking laws? It's like trying to humanize somebody who's mass murdering. Oh, that mass murderer really loved that woman, and he felt so much pain in his heart, and well, every time he saw her, he just wanted her love, and that's why he violently raped her, slit her throat, and forcefully raped her vagina. Okay, well, see, that's what he's doing. He's humanizing people breaking the law. He's humanizing, not saying that all these people are bad, but the ideology that they're bringing in is absolutely horrific, and caustic and deleterious, and it's proven in European society that they don't integrate, and it's proven that some of these bodies of people just create ghettos, which then become no-go zones, which even the police are scared to go in, namely in Sweden, for example. And I've showed the videos of the BBC journalist who went down there as a disbeliever and went there, came out of as a believer, and realizing that there are no-go zones in Sweden, and even the police cannot enter in. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's been scientifically proven that people from certain areas like Somalia and these kind of places do not integrate well into Western civilization. They create their own societies, which become contrary societies, which then the super elites play off of one another, screaming racism, and try to erupt a civil war so that they can profit off the lending that they will do through their international banking cartels. This is absolutely a type of scenario that the bankers from the time of Napoleon under the Rothschild banking system have been employing and have been using to take economic control of nation states, particularly democracies. This is how they balkanize and divide democracies to conquer them and to essentially take over economic control, which then allows them to put in political socialism, communism, you name it, to basically rape, pillage, and plunder that nation for their benefit. So it is such an unbelievable, again, Pope Francis, the fake Pope, showing again that he is 100% in colluding in bed with, in adultery with, the globalist Bilderberg network and political Satanists of the world. He is absolutely a devil-worshipping political Satanist, and at the highest levels, people know that this man is involved in satanic ritual. In the spirit of compassion, let us embrace all those fleeing from war and hunger or forced by discrimination and persecution, poverty, environmental degradation to leave their homelands. You see, look what he's saying. He's not saying, let's help these people be free and get rid of their political establishments like the Vatican and to have the ability to defend themselves and have the ability to have human rights and have the ability to have the kingdom of God. He's not saying that. He's saying, let's have them be able to flee our countries, bring their ideologies to us, and destroy us. And let's be compassionate about that, because that's what my friends at the International Banking Cartel and the Bilderberg Group are telling me we should do. Okay? And everybody shouldn't be on board with it. And all Catholics, you are committing blasphemy if you are against the orders of the Pope, the fake Pope, the false Pope, the false prophet of the last days. The Pope also gingerly addressed the thorny topic of illegal immigration, suggesting it was out of the ordinary and motivated by extreme circumstances. While most people immigrate legally through regular channels, Francis says some take different routes, mainly out of desperation with their own countries offer neither safety nor opportunity, and every legal pathway appears impractical, blocked, or too slow. Why? Because you didn't identify it again. It's because of the governments, the archangelic forces, again, in their nations. Why isn't the UN going after those kind of governments? Why does the UN safe harbor and give safe haven to the most corrupt dictatorships in the world? Why? Because they're a political Satanist organization, shell group for the Bilderberg, Davos Group, and Rothschild banks. They are just a front organization pretending to do peaceful activities, just like the charities that the Clinton Foundation runs. Meanwhile, they're in bed with the Russians, they're in bed with the Chinese, they're selling our trade secrets, they're nuclear arming Chinese, etc., you name it. They are the enemy and traitors of the free world. So is this Pope. So is the Bilderberg Group and Davos Group. They are enemies to you and your family, folks. Enemies. While some consider global migration to be a threat, Francis said, I ask you to view it with confidence as an opportunity to build peace. Build peace? You mean disrupt peace. You mean create balkanization and civil war. You mean to destroy civilization so then you can supplant it and replace it with a one world government. Again, the Pope is backing the one world government. Again, the Pope backing climate change and human taxation on carbon emission, which means by breathing. Absolute ridiculousness. This Pope is 100% a military operative of the super elite class. He is a military operative. He's not a religious figure. He's a military operative of the world's elite. He's an absolute fake, an absolute fraud. He's not Christian. He's not Catholic. People on the inside say he is actually a devil worshiper, predator, pedophilia protecting Catholic fake Pope. A shared agreements at the global levels, these compacts will provide a framework for policy proposals and practical measures, Francis added. For this reason, they need to be inspired by compassion, foresight, and courage. And as Steve Pieczenik has exposed the fact that this Pope has been involved in genocide in Argentina, the only standing Pope ever accused of human rights violations of genocide. He was involved with the Argentinian government, working with the CIA, to board people onto planes and toss them off tens of thousands of, quote, communists. But he was involved in genocide as he was the director of the Jesuits there in Argentina that has a stronghold over Argentina. Unbelievable. This Pope was involved in genocide, colluding with government to mass murder people as a fake Catholic. This man is an absolute criminal, international criminal. Dr. Paul Williams also wrote an entire book exposing that fact as well. For this reason, they need to be inspired by convention for that. Okay. So again, the Pope exposing himself as being a complete political Satanist. Oh my gosh, give me a break. Discussing biggest newspaper in London publishes sex manuals for kids. Look at this. Sex manual for kids. This is what Planned Parenthood was doing as well, sponsoring Mr. Penis Day and Mrs. Vagina Day, and teaching children how to have sex and how to generally masturbate when they're 5 years old. Planned Parenthood was funding and supporting sex organizations, teaching that to 5-year-old freaking children in public schools. Do you understand, folks? Do you understand how much these people hate you and your family? They see you as just children producers, which then they farm those children into their sex trafficking networks and their pedophile networks. The only utility that families have for them is that they produce little children, which they want to destroy, rape, pillage, and plunder. This is the nature of devil worship, is the nature of political Satanists, is the nature of the super elite class. And look at these sick tyrants, again, in the biggest newspaper in London, which is run by the monarchical, fake, satanic, cannibalistic royalty there, publishing, oh my gosh, sex manual for kids. Why you should buy your teenage kids sex toys. You should buy your teenage children, you should buy a 13-year-old girl vibrators so she can masturbate and learn how to masturbate. This is what they're teaching kids. Oh my, this is unprecedented, unbelievable, so in your face. Look at this crap, unbelievable. And the Metro UK Post then retracts an article called Why You Should Buy Your Teenage Kids Sex Toys. Look at this, folks. Alex Jones calls out the Metro paper of London for publishing a child sex manual on December 31st, 2017, and pulling that same article down today's InfoWars Live broadcast. Look at that! Degeneracy runs rampant in the terrifying liberal national institutions as the media now openly advocates the sexualization of children. Do you understand? They want to screw up your children, get them traumatized early, get them sexual active early, because they know that they will completely destroy them mentally, psychologically. It would destroy them physically, so they're not able to fight against the political elite, not able to identify the real threat to their sovereignty and goodness and potential, which are the super elite class, because super elite class have sexualized them early. It feels good. And so they say, look, we're the ones who give you pleasure. We're the ones who helped you do that. It's these Christians. It's these evangelical Christians. It's your parents. It's all these traditional conservatives that are against you and trying to take away your pleasure, which we've given to you because we've taught you how to use vibrators on your sexual organs at freaking 5 years old. They're pretending to be the ones that bestow pleasure upon the children and then say, we're the ones who gave that to you, so we're the ones protecting you. We're the ones who want you to have that pleasure. These bad people are trying to take it away. When the bad people they're referring to are the conservatives and their parents and the Christians who are saying, no, 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 kids, that will destroy you. If you have that too early, it's going to screw you up for life. because you're going to be involved in premarital sexual relations. You're going to have lowered IQ. You're going to have higher rates of poverty. Single motherhood is the highest, single most statistically relevant aspect of creating childhood poverty. So they know it's going to make you poor. They know it's going to make you hypersexualized. They know it's going to bring you into the world of sexuality way before you're supposed to be in it. It's going to destroy your chance of having a healthy marriage. It's going to destroy your chance of raising healthy children. It's going to destroy your chances of having healthy sexual relation with a husband. It's going to destroy your chances of higher income. It's going to destroy your chances of higher education. It's going to increase your chance of poverty and childhood poverty, etc. It's going to destroy your freaking life. And that's what they want. Because when you're destroyed, then you're easier to control. You will not be an entrepreneur. You will not be a competitor to their monopolies. You will not be a political journalist who goes after them and investigates their corruption. You will not do any of that. All you'll be complaining is about people are not giving vibrators to 5-year-old children because your little pleasure givers, the government, taught you how to do that at a young age to destroy you, but they've been telling you that it's them that's protecting you and the givers of that pleasure to you. When it's God who made your sexual organs so that when the time is right, you can enjoy pleasure with your husband or pleasure with your wife in the covenant of marriage. In the covenant of marriage, where sexual pleasure can be explored and sexual life can be explored and flourish there, because it also creates a flourishing children who then can understand how the nature of marriage creates the most power for sexual intimacy and sexual power. But of course, they want the young people to have access to that early, and they want them to be hypersexualized early at 5 years old, including Disney Channel, etc., making them involved in this because it destroys your freaking life, okay? It destroys your freaking life. Look at all those kids who are having sex early, destroys their life. It becomes an addiction because it's just as addictive as more than addictive than cocaine, heroin, etc. There are chemicals that are released in your brain after you have sex, which are the pleasure hormones, etc., that literally give you a drug-induced high. Okay, so that's not supposed to be experienced at a young age, because if it's done without the proper amygdala function and proper development of the brain and or morality, then you have a destruction, devolution of humanity and society starting from individuals. And that's why they mainstream the sexualization of children. That's why they use Disney Channel and all these things to push transgenderism, to push hypersexualization of children, etc. This is what they're doing to you. It is planned. It is strategic. It is on point to destroy your family. And the people in the body of Christ are the only ones basically aware of it and are against it. And that's the reason why they're targeted as being evil and being backwards and as being the enemy of society. Because why? These super elites want to create the environment where everybody's hypersexualized, everybody's engaged in free sex, licentious behavior, etc., which will then justify their pedophilic cults, their advocacy for lowering the age limit down so they can have sex with 5-year-old children. Legally, that's what they want, because they're involved in the actual pedophilia. They're involved in all that sex, pedophilia, child trafficking, etc. But they have to do it illegally, so if they can justify a society to do it, and everybody's doing it at 5 years old, and everybody's having sex with children, well, then they're off the hook. Do you see what I mean? And that's why they start with the homosexual political agenda. That's why they start with the transgender political agenda. And through NAMBLA and the UN, they're trying to push the minor attraction syndrome agenda, which is have compassion for pedophiles. They're people too. They're demons. They're demons that are destroying human lives. You can murder somebody, shoot someone in the head, or you can do this to them and teach them how to masturbate and teach them how to do this at 5 freaking years old, and it will screw up their life forever, especially girls. And this is what it is. They're teaching vibrators to girls at freaking 5 years old. Because they will be exploited. Boy, they will be exploited by the endless slew of boys and penises that will try to rape them, will try to sexually take advantage of them. And it will destroy their view of men in general. It will just ravage society. And the globalists, they know that, and the political Satanists, they know that, and the devil worshippers, they know that, and that's why they're on top of that. Metro publishes this, and then they take it away that very same day after they have been called out on it and it's been exposed what they're supporting. Unbelievable. Incredible. Let's go. Oh, okay, 1 second. One more before we go, Tim. Swedish church worships gender fluid Jesus, folks. Look at this. Jesus has feminine qualities, claims church officials. Claiming that gender isn't determined at birth, a Swedish church is worshiping a gender fluid Jesus. Okay, so Jesus was sometimes a woman and sometimes a man, according to this church in Sweden. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. We didn't want to assign a gender to Jesus right away at birth, said church leader Suzanne Center. It's quite fitting that a feminist is doing this, of course.
Unto you a daughter is born, was it?
Unto you a woman is born. That's I guess what it is. Theologically, we're talking about Jesus as a true God and man. A human is not just he. Well, that's going to Jesus follows. He's referred to himself as a son, father. That doesn't really matter. What Jesus refers to himself. It doesn't matter that God is a father, a protective father. It doesn't matter any of that. It doesn't matter that human beings are called to be the bride to God and to be the object partner to God. It doesn't matter that. It just destroy all that. We want to feminize it. We want to create the feminist agenda in there, which basically will make prisoners of women to other control freak women. This is what a lot of women have realized. The feminist movement is a total fraud sham. They're not out to empower you. They're out to destroy and control you. They're out to tell you what you have to think, what color hair you have to build, what kind of political affiliations you have to have, and that you cannot think on your own, and you must be ruled by Gloria Steinem. She is your god and goddess. It is a cult. It is 100% a cult. They don't give you evidence for their arguments. They screw up your life saying marriage is bad, when all the scientific evidence shows you that marriage actually protects children and is the most satisfactory thing actually for women to involve in. And it's the whole movement of not getting married, whole movement of women entering the marketplace and just working for their, quote, value, basically taking on male goal orientations for themselves to find value in themselves and not valuing themselves as mothers, not valuing themselves as caretakers, not valuing themselves as homemakers, etc. All that out the basket, and women are now unhappy, more unhappy. And the Gloria Steinems and all these feminists have been lying to them, saying, oh, they never have children, never have children. And then they go off and have children. I mean, this is what's so ridiculous about them. They themselves are unhappy in their teaching, and they screw up other people's lives, making them depressed, increasing suicide rates, lowering happiness, etc. for women. This is what women have realized, that the feminists are not there to support conservative women. They don't support all women. They're openly attacking women who say, no, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to raise a beautiful family. They openly attack those kind of women. So they've been exposed as being complete totalitarians, authoritarians that try to collude with the state to gain state power and steal resources for themselves. And at the same time, the feminists have exposed themselves of being control freak women, literally trying to induct women into their slave caste, so then you have to worship these other crazy control freak women. Meanwhile, they're complaining about patriarchy, which doesn't exist, and saying that's so bad, and so thus you should come under them and live under the slavery. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, you have this crazy cult of Church of Sweden doing this thing, trying to make a little satanic cult out there in Sweden, as they're, again, raise the retirement age to pay for migrants as well. Sweden is such a mess. What a pathetic nation that gets sold out to political correctness and the monsters of feminism, which just destroy that country, just completely ravage and destroy the country. Company harvesting human body heat to mine cryptocurrencies. Dutch startup emulates the matrix by utilizing human energy. Using the body heat of volunteers to mine cryptocurrencies is a project reminiscent of the Matrix. Look at them here, signing people up, taking human body energy, and then purchasing cryptocurrencies. I guess mining Christian currency. There they are. Let's go to Tim Elder for important reports about China and North Korea. Tim.
There are three articles that I want to point out about North Korea and China today. One is that apparently when North Korea fired a missile last April, it only flew for about a minute. It was a failed test, but what happened was that it actually landed on one of its own cities.
Wow.
And it landed on, it looks like it landed on
Incredible.
some industrial or agricultural buildings. And so there may not have been many casualties, but it shows the kind of thing that can happen. You know, if North Korea is shooting these missiles over Japanese territory, over the Japanese islands and Japanese populated areas. So this is the kind of danger that you can have. And especially they're using liquid fuel, which on impact it has a very large explosion. And so that danger was confirmed by this incident that happened last April. Second article I want to point out is that China's President Xi Jinping spoke to his military yesterday.
Show the article. Show that article.
This is on a Drudge headline, and he ordered his army to prepare for war.
China's ramping up.
Now, this is concerning moment. Chinese President Xi Jinping addressed his military forces in rising tensions between the United States and North Korea. Of course, he did not address the military as president or as president of China. He addressed the military as the chairman of the Communist Party of China's military commission, because it is the military commission that is the commander-in-chief of Chinese military. So basically, the People's Liberation Army is a private army of the Chinese Communist Party. Anyway, in the clip filmed in Central Theater Command on Wednesday, more than 7,000 Chinese servicemen await Xi's New Year's orders. As the camera pans through the crowd, it gives an insight into how regimented the world's largest army is. Speaking in front of thousands of troops and over 300 perfectly organized military vehicles, Xi, the Communist Party's general secretary, ordered his forces to prepare for the event of war. Here I give my orders. The military at all levels should strengthen military training and war preparedness. The military should continue to implement actual and joint trainings under combat conditions and continue to conduct strict training in accordance with the outline for military training and evaluation. The military should hold training and competition with mass participation, strengthening tailored and adversarial training, enhance real combat capabilities, and master the skills to fight and win. After Xi issued the order, soldiers of the People's Liberation Army took an oath, standing in front of the military flag. Let's jump now to an article in the Washington Free Beacon, and I sent a link to the tech team if they can go into the email and pull that up. This is by Bill Gertz in the Washington Free Beacon. We know that Bill Gertz has a lot of good sources. Secret document reveals China covertly offering missiles and increased aid to North Korea. It's not just oil.
Nope.
They're offering missiles and increased aid to North Korea. Party directive warns another nuclear test could lead to war and promises aid boost in exchange for testing ban.
So was the U.S. under Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Obama. Ridiculous.
So Bill Gertz writes, China's Communist Party adopted a secret plan in September to bolster the North Korean government with increased aid and military support, including new missiles, if Pyongyang halts further nuclear tests, according to an internal party document. But we know that, it's been reported that North Korea may be preparing for its 7th nuclear test even at this time. So if that happens, how will China respond? The document, labeled top secret and dated September 15th, 2 days after North Korea's latest underground nuclear test, outlines China's plan for dealing with the North Korean nuclear issue. It states China will allow North Korea to keep its current arsenal of nuclear weapons, contrary to Beijing's public stance that it seeks a denuclearized Korean peninsula. Chinese leaders also agreed to offer new assistances that the North Korean government will not be allowed to collapse, and that Beijing plans to apply sanctions symbolically to avoid punishing the regime of leader Kim Jong-un under the recent UN resolution requiring a halt to oil and gas shipments into North Korea. A copy of the 4-page Chinese language document was obtained by the Washington Free Beacon from a person who once had ties to the Chinese intelligence and security communities. An English translation can be found at the given link. CIA spokesman had no immediate comment on the document that could not be independently verified. In Beijing Wednesday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang, asked about the Free Beacon report, said, in a word, fake news. The disclosure of the document comes amid reports China is continuing to send oil to North Korea in violation of the United Nations sanctions. We saw the satellite photos of that, prompting criticism from President Trump. Trump tweeted last week that China was caught red-handed allowing oil shipments to North Korea. There will never be a friendly solution to the North Korean problem if this continues to happen, the president stated on December 28th. Release of the classified internal document is unusual since China's communist system imposes strict secrecy on all party policies. Exposure of the secret Central Committee directive could indicate high-level opposition within the party to current Supreme Leader Xi Jinping, who has consolidated more power than any leader since Mao Zedong. Of course, Xi Jinping is still in a power struggle with the two presidents before him, Jiang Zemin. So that could have played a part here, we don't know. China's leaders, according to the document, concluded that international pressure will not force North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons, estimated to be at least 20 warheads. As a result, the Central Committee of the party directed its International Liaison Department, the organ in charge of communicating with foreign political parties, to inform Pyongyang of China's continued backing. The head of the Liaison Department, Song Tao, visited Pyongyang November 17th and met with senior North Korean officials, but it looks like maybe not Kim Jong-un. North Korean state media did not provide details of the talks other than to say issues of mutual concern were discussed. The directive appears written in response to the United Nations Security Council resolution passed after the September 3rd North Korean nuclear test. Included among the resolution's new sanctions are restrictions on oil and gas transfers, including a ban on transferring oil between ships in open ocean waters, which actually happens. On the UN requirement to shut down oil and gas transfers from China to North Korea, the party document said that after North Korean businesses in China will be closed, under the terms of the latest UN resolution, our country will not, for the moment, restrict Korea from entrusting qualified Chinese agencies from trade with Korea or conducting related trade activities via third countries or regions. A directive ordered the Liaison Department to offer a promised increase in aid for daily life and infrastructure building and a one-time increase in funds for North Korea of 15% for 2018. Chinese aid will then be increased annually from 2019 through 2023 by no less than 10% over the previous year. The Chinese also promised the North Koreans that in response to calls to suspend all banking business with North Korea, that the financial ban will only apply to state-owned banks controlled by the central government and some regional banks. On military support, the document reveals that China is offering North Koreans defensive military construction and high-level military science and technology. High-level military science and technology? Sounds like missiles to me. The weaponry will include more advanced mid- and short-range ballistic missiles. There you go.
There you go.
Cluster munitions, etc., the document said. Your department should, at the same time, seriously warn the Korean Authority not to overdo things on the nuclear issue, the document says. Currently, there is no issue for our country to forcefully ask North Korea to immediately, completely give up its nuclear weapons. Instead, we ask Korea to maintain restraint, and after some years, when the conditions are ripe, to apply gradual reforms and eventually meet the requirements of denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. The document then directs the Liaison Department to warn that if North Korea insists on acting rashly, further punitive measures will be imposed on senior North Korean leaders and their family members. The directive lists requirements for the Liaison Department to pursue, including the North Koreans of China's determination to protect the Korean government on behalf of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, CPC. Liaison officials also were tasked with informing North Koreans of promises of support and aid in exchange for Pyongyang making substantial compromises on its nuclear issues. It goes on for a little while, but I think we're running out of time. It shows that, nothing on the Korean Peninsula is as it appears. So behind President Trump's back, the Chinese are actually sending missiles to North Korea.
There you go, folks. The lying Chinese elite. They lie through their teeth. That pagan culture lies through its teeth. Does not have the same moral framework as the West and as Christianity. They don't have. It's a vacuum of morality there. When you leave Christ and you have no Christian moral framework, it is completely might equals right. That's how Chinese emperors and imperial China has always been ruled. Always the establishment has believed that they're gods. Always the divine right of kings from the emperors of totalitarian rights of king has come from that satanic style of pagan worship. So again, you need to have a political framework which has a Judeo-Christian framework upon which there is sovereignty for the people and human rights and the freedom of the rod of iron. And that, of course, is the kingdom of God and the gospel of the kingdom of God, which is finally being preached in these end of days right here at Sanctuary Church from the second king, heir and successor to Reverend Samuel Moon, the Lord of the Second Advent. And if you doubt that, hey, you got to read the Constitution, because the Bible says that he will come with a new name, Revelation 3:12. You have to see. He will not come with the name Yeshua. He will come with a new name. And you will know a tree by its fruit. The fruit of Reverend Samuel Moon and the Messiah is the Chaniugo Constitution, the Kingdom of God Constitution. You can hate him all you want, but you will see this. And if you love George Washington, you love freedom, and you love sovereignty, you will have to rethink the fact that God has sent his son to establish his kingdom on earth. And through that, his kingdom of the rod of iron, the rule of the rod of iron, but also a kingdom of true love and peace and happiness, centered on God and centered on Judeo-Christian values that the Satanists, political Satanists, socialist communists can never take away again. We will see you tomorrow, folks. Thank you for joining us this day on this snowy, beautiful day. School is canceled for the kids in this area. They are celebrating and leaping with joy unspeakable. And we will see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp on the King's Report. Stay safe, stay warm, be with God in this day. Give him all the glory. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.